All right, if you've spent any time at all on the highway, I guarantee you've seen it. A massive truck barrels past, but one of its wheel sets is just floating. It's just hanging there in midair, and it looks kind of weird, right? Like maybe something's broken. But it's not. It's actually a brilliant piece of engineering doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
So today, we are going to pull back the curtain on that mystery. We're diving into the world of heavy-duty transport to figure out the real reason behind those floating tires.
What you're looking at is called a lift axle. You might also hear it called an airlift axle or a drop axle. Basically, it's a set of wheels that can be raised or lowered whenever the driver needs it to, and it's all about solving this constant tug-of-war between weight, wear, and the roads we all drive on.
And to really get why lift axles are so important, you first have to understand the fundamental problem that every single truck on the road is trying to solve.
Think about it. A truck's entire job is to haul just an incredible amount of weight, but all that weight takes a toll, a huge toll. It chews up tires, it guzzles fuel, and maybe most importantly, it absolutely pulverizes the pavement underneath. And, the way a truck's weight damages a road isn't as straightforward as you might think.
This right here, the fourth power law, is pretty much the #1 reason lift axles even exist. It's a principle that totally changed how we think about building roads and designing the vehicles that drive on them.
16 times. Let me explain. If you double the weight pressing down on a single truck axle, the damage it does to the road doesn't just double, it multiplies by 16. That's not just more, that's an exponential explosion of force. So the huge takeaway here is that how you distribute the weight is way more important than the total weight itself. I mean, get this, an 80,000-pound truck with 5 axles can cause nearly 10,000 times more damage than a 4,000-pound car. That's the dilemma, and it needed a seriously clever solution.
And that solution was to give trucks the ability to basically change their own shape, or more accurately, to change their footprint on the road. This is where the engineering gets really, really cool.
It's simple, really. When a truck is packed to the gills, it needs more axles on the ground to spread out all that weight and save the road. But what happens when it's empty? Well, then those extra axles are just dead weight. They're creating friction, burning fuel, and wearing out expensive tires for absolutely no reason. The lift axle lets the driver have the best of both worlds.
And this idea has been evolving for almost 100 years. It all started back in 1926 with a pretty simple concept for distributing load better. By the 40s, you start to see the first mechanical and hydraulic lifts. Then, a huge leap forward in 1957 out of Finland, the first liftable drive axle. But the real game changer was in the 70s, when air-powered systems made lift axles way cheaper, lighter, and so much easier to use.
So how does a truck just lift thousands of pounds of steel and rubber off the ground in a few seconds? Well, the secret sauce is a piece of tech you've probably seen on city buses. The heart of the whole system is the air bellow, or an air spring. These things are incredibly tough, reinforced rubber bags. So instead of a stiff metal spring, the truck just pumps compressed air into these bags to hold up the weight. And the cool part is, this gives the truck a perfectly smooth ride, whether it's totally empty or completely full.
The logic behind it is just beautiful. When the truck is loaded down, or even when the driver just flips a switch, the truck's air compressor fills up these big load-bearing bellows. As they inflate, they push the whole axle assembly down and plant the wheels right on the road. To lift it back up, the system just lets the air out of those big bellows, and either a smaller set of lift bellows inflates or some heavy-duty springs contract, and whoosh, the whole thing gets pulled up and away from the pavement. Simple as that.
Now, you'll see these lift axles in 2 main spots. If it's in front of the main drive axles, that's called a pusher axle. A lot of these can even steer, which helps a ton when you're trying to make a tight turn. If it's behind the drive axles, we call that a tag axle. When you lift a tag axle, you're actually making the truck's wheelbase shorter, which makes it way, way easier to maneuver.
So we've covered the what and the how. But let's talk about the why. Because beyond being just a neat piece of machinery, lifting those tires has a whole bunch of real-world benefits that are actually pretty critical to our economy. Okay, the payoffs here are huge. The second that axle comes up, you get less friction with the road, which means you save fuel. You're literally hitting pause on wear and tear for those tires, and trust me, tires are a massive expense. For us, that means cheaper shipping and more stable prices. In a lot of places, highway tolls are based on how many axles you have on the ground, so lifting them saves actual money in real time. And here's a weird one, in slippery conditions, lifting an axle can actually increase traction by putting more weight on the wheels that power the truck.
To put that in perspective, about a third of the energy a truck uses on the highway is just to fight the friction of its own tires. So if you can take a couple of those tires out of the equation when they aren't needed, you see a direct, measurable boost in fuel economy on every single trip.
But the story doesn't stop in the present. This 100-year-old technology isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's becoming even more important as we head into the next generation of trucking, one that's all about electric power and artificial intelligence.
Meet the e-axle. This is the next big step. Instead of just being a steel beam that holds the wheels, the e-axle packs the electric motor right into the axle itself. This is a total game changer for electric trucks because it frees up a ton of space for what they need most, batteries.
So just imagine a liftable e-axle. When an electric truck is running empty, it could lift that powered axle completely off the ground to get rid of motor drag. But when it needs to brake, it could drop that axle down to capture more regenerative energy. For a self-driving truck, it could be a backup braking system. The floating tire is changing from a simple mechanical tool into a smart, dynamic part of the truck's brain.
So the next time you're on the highway and you see a truck with its tires in the air, you'll know it's not broken. It's a century of engineering in action, perfectly balancing power and efficiency right before your eyes. And it really makes you wonder, what other everyday things are hiding incredible stories just waiting to be discovered?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.